Hi, my name is Amy Ricker, and this is my Module 1 presentation for EDL954 Introduction. So I have two boys, teenage boys, Wyatt, who is a sophomore in high school, and Waylon, who's an 8th grader. My husband Tate and I, we own a family farm. We live currently in Scott City, where I taught for the last 15 years prior to what I do now. We live in rural western Kansas, so we stay pretty busy following our kids and things like that. So a little bit about where I work. I work for the Northwest Kansas Educational Service Center located in Oakley, Kansas, which is on I-70. I'm the Assistant Director of Special Education. This is my second year in this position. We oversee 19 school districts in Northwest Kansas. So we extend clear up to the northwest corner of Kansas by the Nebraska-Colorado border, clear down to Weskin, Sharon Springs, and over clear to Waukene, and then back north. Here at the Northwest Kansas Educational Service Center, we supply many services. It's a little different than a co-op. In the service center, school districts can buy in the different services that they want to get from us. So they can buy our special ed services, which may mean they purchase a teacher, they get just the paras, they get the teacher and the para, OT, PT, speech and language, psychology, counseling. We have a Tiny K program, Head Start, early childhood, and parents as teachers. So we have a lot of services that come out of our district, along with audiology and vision impaired. Our service center has approximately 1,700 students on IEPs, give or take. Certified staff, we have approximately 150 certified staff and 125 classified staff, and that's just a rough estimate. Our paras are kind of like revolving doors, so sometimes that's kind of an iffy number there. Education, I graduated from Eureka, Kansas in 1994, and I went to Fort Hays State University where I got my bachelor's in elementary education. And then after a couple of years of teaching regular ed in Salina, I went back to school and got my master's in special education through Fort Hays State. I started teaching special education in Colby. I was there for 5 years. Then when we moved to Scott City, because my husband is in law enforcement, he transferred his job. That's where I taught special ed for the past 14 years. I did gifted. I was the assistive technology coordinator. And then the last several years that I was teaching there, I did preschool, kindergarten, and first grade special ed. During that time, I worked on getting my building level endorsement through Fort Hays State, and now, of course, I'm in my second year as the Assistant Director of Special Ed here at NKESC, and I'm into my last 2 classes for my district level endorsement. So I have a total of 23 years of education. My goals, my long-term goal is to eventually the current director of special ed is starting to have those thoughts about retirement. So one of my goals is to hopefully be able to slide in and take over as director of special ed in a few years, and to be able to retire from education knowing that I made a difference. My short-term goals are to finish these last 2 classes. I'm taking this and practicum this semester, and take my praxis this summer, and then also work with my staff just to survive the pandemic. Greatest accomplishments and kind of becoming an educator, things like that. I kind of tied it all together. I feel like my greatest accomplishment as an educator is being able to work with kids with special needs. That is not an area that just anybody can go and do. Many try, but after 5 years they find that burnout. And they just aren't able to stick with it. So I feel like my accomplishment of being able to be in special ed for as many years as I have, and I have a passion for it. I love it. And that's why I continue to grow and become that leader in this area, so I can hopefully share with others the wealth that can come from being a special education teacher. I also feel like with special education, teaching others how to differentiate, I go back to the first 2 years that I taught regular ed, and so that's why I have my quote, I wish gen ed teachers knew the things that every special ed teacher gets to know, because behind every special ed kid there is a really cool kid, even when they are the toughest kid to have to work with because of behaviors or whatever. Once you can break that shell, they really are cool kids, and it gives you a whole nother outlook on teaching. So why I make a difference? I make a difference by being a leader. As a leader, I'm committed to lifelong learning, encouraging relationships, because I think, along with communication, that's huge, having those relationships, academic excellence, personal and professional growth, diversity, collaboration, organization, all of those things. But at the heart of a school is the people who make up the organization. And these are the individuals that are the most important piece to the success of a school. A school can't be successful by just one person alone. It takes everybody from the top down and from the bottom up to be successful. So as a leader, I hope to grow those relationships between all of our staff so that we have success in all forms. And why take this class? What do I want to know? What do I want to learn? What do I need to know? I'm kind of like that meme there in the corner. My background, I have some exposure to the vocabulary. Being an assistant director, I've heard about buy-ins and MOEs and different Title I funds and all the different funds that go into education. I've heard the lingo and the vocabulary, but as the assistant director, we have an executive director here that does all of our finance, and he's actually a retired superintendent, and he's very knowledgeable on the budgets and things, so I really don't have to deal with a lot of that. But I need to know what that stuff means, and I want to know what that means, so I don't feel like it's a foreign language when I'm sitting in meetings and things like that. So what I want to learn is to better understand how money flows through the different accounts, what they mean, and like an IEP, what do those acronyms really mean? I can set in an IEP and rattle off acronyms, and parents probably look at me. I know my husband does, like I've got 3 heads. Well, that's how I feel about some of the acronyms in finance. So my needs, in the special ed world, in a service center, it all ties together, but it ties together in a different way than it does in just as being a superintendent. So I need to understand how it all works with districts so that I can understand for buy-ins and justifying excess costs, because that's a huge conversation we have with our districts, how it all goes together so I can work with my superintendents better.